I'm Stu Nankervell of Blue Goanna Digital. The haunting melody you hear at the start of the video is indicative of the emotional content of this video, which is one of the most moving pieces that I've produced in my career. In 2018, the Clare people celebrated the centenary of their railway, which is now the Riesling Trail. John Wilson, who is now better known as Jojo Wilson, produced a book, The Riesling Railway. Within that book, there was extensive coverage of the shooting of Percy Brookfield at the Riverton Railway Station in 1921. Percy Brookfield was a Member of Parliament who championed the cause of the miners of Broken Hill. It is believed that his death was the first political assassination in Australia. He has been revered as a hero. John was so moved by the story that he wrote a poem, which is the basis of this video. On the eve of March the 21st, back in 1921, the express departed Sulphide Street on its usual southward run. To Adelaide, most were destined, 200 packed in tight, with card games to amuse them as they travelled through the night. The Silver City, that most called home, had suffered more than most. In torrid times of recent years, with little it could boast, the Turks they had invaded, and had shot up in the town, and of fires, drought and dust storms, the place was well renowned. Brookfield was from Lancashire, a figure tall and strong, and eloquent, and spoke his mind. Popularity did not take long. As local parlance put it, he had come there from away. With digs at the Duke of Cornwall, he was in the hill to stay. As a pugilist, he was fearless. Asset to any side that mattered. Assailed by 5, he fought the scrum, victorious but battered. When once a chap did threaten him, 'twould fill a lesser man with fear. But Brookie calmly talked him round, then shouted him a beer. Prime Minister old Billy Hughes was loyal to the crown, saw conscription as the way ahead to bring the Hun folk down. Our hero responded fervently, "Traitor, viper and a skunk!" They put him in the local jail. For a month it was his bunk. In 17 the miners agreed Percy Brookfield should be their bloke, to join the Sydney legislature and free miners from the company yoke. Brookfield eyed those with elected seats, Libs, Labour, and all the rest, a den of pure iniquity, and of the party he'd detest. Phthisis was the miners' scourge, from years and years of dust. The mining firms all disagreed. Miners deemed fresh air a must. On top of it, the Spanish flu took a toll within the town. Experts called from Sydney, report ignored, miners all put down. So, the miners withdrew their labour, and the strike went on and lasted. And further on and on it went. Brookfield's name was surely blasted. 80 weeks less 3 the strike ran. Starvation, scrounging, whatever was able. But the company ceded in the end, and a miner had food on his table. Brookfield travelled on that slow express, across the Mundy Plains, to take his Sydney Assembly seat via Melbourne, 5 different trains. Rumour was that on the way, he was about to stake a claim, on behalf of all the workers, for the leases 'twas his game. The Broken Hill Express that night, rattling on its narrow track, through Manor Hill and Paratu, in SA's way out back. Gumbowie was the clarion call. "All change!" cried out the guard. From here the gauge was wider, drifting into Tarawi's yard. Aboard that train, a sullen soul, with a one-way ticket south, and clutching a small portmanteau. not a word came from his mouth. Korman Tomayev, Russian, it was said, seeking vineyard work in Clare. He would change again at Riverton, and asked when he'd be there. At Riverton, a scheduled halt. At the railway refreshment joint, Brookfield chatting over eggs and toast, and nodding yea to every point. A loud report, and 2 more shots, hit near the refresh door. The Russian firing indiscriminately, but his aim was mostly poor. Then Crowhurst from Oodlawira copped a bullet in the thigh. At first it seemed a minor wound, but from it he would die. Kinsella was a constable. From Broken Hill had been aboard, his handgun in his luggage he had fortuitously stored. Kinsella went back to the train, and then to Brookfield past the gun. The Russian still kept firing on, reloading with each volley done. Brookie calmly walked towards him, intent, we think, to peacefully disarm, and apparently of a firm belief he'd be spared of any harm. The Russian was sprouting gibberish, and of mentality most demented. Brookfield came on unflinching, with intention fully cemented. 2 quick shots into the abdomen stopped poor Percy's sound. Kinsella first, then others in pursuit, brought the Russian to the ground. They asked the wounded Brookfield why he'd taken such a risk, to which he gave an answer made remarkably frank and brisk. For the ladies, he had done it, spoken though in mortal pain. I am nothing, quietly uttered, for he knew that he'd been slain. In the van they made him comfy, and the express was sent non-stop, in the hope that Adelaide's hospital could save him with their op. But despite the best intentions of the surgeons later on that day, our hero's fate was certain, and he sadly passed away. One last journey on that same express. A final homeward passage made to a morning silver city. In Trades Hall his body was laid. On Good Friday he went to his grave. 2/3 of the city his brothers. His memorial still towers by far, proud and high above all the others. Political assassination was widely said. There had been a hope up in the hill. A court case hearing to evoke the facts. Closure had been the town's will. Mick Considine was duly consulted, if he could offer advice or a deed as the federal member or rep, but naught could fill the need. South Australia, over keen, it seemed, to be rid of the whole nasty lot, had no concern regards the facts and whether there'd been a plot. They got a couple of ordinary docs, the Russian to report his state of mind, insanity at the governor's pleasure. His life he would hence unwind. Back at Broken Hill, that news they would greet. From Railway Town, the south, and down Old Argent Street, one of sheer and utter dismay. South Australia, a long-time friend, could treat them in this way. For answers, it spelt the end. On a corner block in Sulphide Street, and hanging high up on the wall, a framed photograph of Brookfield in his much revered Trades Hall. It reveals a kindly countenance, and he smiles down at the lot, for in Broken Hill and elsewhere he will surely not be forgot.